Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of March 6th, the year 2025. And our first guest is someone who we've had on the show a number of times over the years. He's a former Illinois state senator and currently the mayor of Evanston, Illinois, the one and only Daniel Biss. Good day to you, Daniel.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. And, it's a heated race here in the 9th Congressional District. We've got tons and tons of people running. Some people are friendly with each other. It's getting a little nasty on some fronts. I'd like you to share with our listeners and our viewers what are two of the most pressing issues that our nation faces right now, and how might you as a congressperson address them?
Well, I'm going to give two issues that some people might say are the same and some might say are different. One is ICE and the immigration attacks, the occupation of our communities that we've endured, and the vicious, brutal violence and racism that comes with that. And the other is the threats to our democracy, the fact that this president and this administration are fundamentally not interested in the people having a voice in how we govern ourselves. So, I look at this and it's just like a level of emergency and an intensity that I haven't seen before. We had masked agents running around our whole area, snatching people off the street because of the color of their skin. And I'm proud of what I've done in Evanston as mayor. We've been kind of the tip of the spear, a model community for people across the country figuring out how municipal government can resist ICE, creating ICE-free zones, passing a strong welcoming city ordinance, taking down our license plate cameras, and then creating a policy where when ICE is in town, if someone calls 911, we send a police supervisor. They do the same kind of work they would do if there's any other assault or abduction. Like, for example, on Halloween, when they were here and forced a car accident, we did an accident report. And that means that we got a hold of their driver's license. We have their driver's license number and their names. And those are public information. And that's the first step to accountability. So I'm proud of the work we've done inside government. I'm proud of the work I've done on the street, standing face to face with Greg Bavino, being tear gassed on the front lines. And I'm going to Congress to abolish ICE and make sure that we have a sane, humane immigration policy rooted in the basic principle that, dude, listen, immigration is good for America. Immigration is not the problem. Immigration is the solution. And then at the same time, as I said, we have these massive attacks on our democracy, threats of using ICE and CBP and National Guard troops to disrupt elections. And we just need to fight back with every tool that we can. We can't afford to rely on norms and politeness and the old way of doing things. We have to be aggressive and strong in the courts, on the streets, in Congress to secure our democracy. It's what the people are demanding that we do, and it's what Congress needs to do.
Daniel, can you go a little bit more on what you would propose or do or support around immigration issues in Congress?
Well, so part of it, defense against what's going on now. I talked about abolishing ICE. That's really important. But part of it is, what's an immigration policy? And, the thing that's infuriating, Michael, is the answer to this question is not new. We've been having the same conversation for decades. We need a path to citizenship. So everyone who's here and has not been involved in violent crime has a path to full citizenship and full status. We need to have a rational conversation about levels of immigration that are appropriate, that are in our interest, that are the kind of the consensus desire of the country. By the way, we have to have that conversation from the point of view, again, that immigration is good. It's an enhancer of our cultural vibrancy. Where you live and where I live. We choose to live in places that are what they are, where life is enjoyable and vibrant, because immigrants come there from all over the world, and we learn from each other and eat together and play together and work together and engage across difference. That's what makes America on our best days, right? So that's the second thing, right? Let's decide a level of immigration from the point of view that immigration is culturally important for us, it's socially important for us, and it's economically important for us as well. And then finally, secure the border in a humane way. None of this ICE stuff, no paramilitary forces, not violence like this, a humane, decent, constitutional, appropriate way to secure the border. And if you do those three things, then you've actually really addressed the issue.
Daniel, let me ask you, how might you address this rogue president who has been really terrible about civil liberties, civil rights, the whole shebang? What do you make of him, and how would you address that?
Yeah, civil liberties, civil rights. And let's not forget that we are now 4 days into a completely illegal, dangerous, reckless war, right? So talk about a rogue president, just ignores the Constitution, just he wants to be the king and declare war by himself. So that's another unbelievably important problem with this disregard for the laws of this country that he shows. And I'm sure we'll talk more about the war later. It's not that just the war is illegal. It's also incredibly stupid and dangerous, but we'll get there later. So listen, there's some basics. I hope to join a Democratic majority in Congress, and we're going to have to impeach this president, clearly. And it can't just be him, right? There's key figures, whether it's Kristi Noem or other people who have been a part in the executive branch of these vicious assaults on our rights and this lawlessness, or frankly, judicial branch officials as well who've been corrupt and really dangerous for the country. We have to use the subpoena power and the hearings to get the truth out. There need to be prosecutions. But then also this sounds more basic, but it's actually really important. Congress needs to do its goddamn job, right? So yes, this lawless president is going off to war unconstitutionally, but Congress needs to stand up and assert their power, and they don't do that. So part of why we're here, I believe this to my core, part of why we're here is that Congress has abdicated its responsibility, not just for the last year, but for much longer than that, left a power vacuum behind. And then Donald Trump and the courts have filled that power vacuum. It's time for Congress to actually do its job legislatively and through oversight and accountability. And I'm not running to just, talk. I'm not running to just take good positions. I'm not running to just have a title. I'm running to act, to use the power of Congress to make change that will actually impact people's lives. That's what I've done throughout my career as mayor of Evanston, as a state legislator. And that's what we need in Washington right now.
You brought up the war in Iran, and it's really heavy waking up to this, and now we're in another war. So why don't you talk a little about the war and also talk about our relationship with Israel? Because, a lot of people have had different positions around Israel over the years as things have evolved into where things are at today. And so talk a little bit about the Iran war and also about Israel. This 9th congressional district has sort of been known as the Jewish seat. There's some Jewish people and others running now. I don't know how that will work out, but the relationship to Israel is something that comes up, and it is definitely something that's going to affect the next presidential race. You got a lot of younger people being very supportive of Gaza, of the resistance in Gaza, not what Israel's been doing. What's your take on all of that?
Well, I'm glad that you asked, and I'm glad that you asked those two questions together, because I don't think it makes sense to talk about the war in Iran without also talking about Israel. Okay, so I'll start with the war. We already talked about the fact that the war is illegal. That's important, but that's not the whole story. The war is also really, really bad, right? So listen carefully when you hear Democrats talk. Most Democrats, unbelievably not all, but most Democrats are able to stand up and say, listen, this war is illegal. Congress needs to at least approve it. But then the second question is, okay, cool, but is it a good idea? Because here's the truth. This is reckless. This is dangerous. This is another example, just like 23 years ago with Iraq, of a U.S. president saying, Middle Eastern government is bad and oppressive and dangerous, which is true. And therefore, we should just engage in a war which will result in the death of American service members, already happened, the death of countless civilians across the Middle East, already happening tragically, and a massive destabilization and potentially a spiraling of violence. And it is important to just be clear. This is a bad idea. There is no reason to believe it's going to work. There's no reason to even know what Donald Trump thinks the objective is, because what he says is a constantly shifting, incoherent, moving target. This is really, really not good. But what it is what Bibi Netanyahu has wanted for a long time. And this is a joint U.S.-Israel war where Netanyahu has been like, hey, man, it's time for war in Iran. And Trump has been saying, I'm the peace president. And so now they're at war together. So who's in charge here? It's an interesting question, right? And AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, is kind of the chief cheerleader for this war. So to go to Israel itself, I'm Jewish. My mom is Israeli. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors who found a safe haven in Israel after they survived. I believe in Israel's right to exist as a Jewish democratic state and to defend itself. But the conduct of this Israeli government is beyond the pale. It's unacceptable. It's wrong. Using starvation as a weapon of war, the bombing of schools and hospitals, the killing, the expansion of settlements, the settler violence that the government is basically condoning. It's really deeply wrong. And basically what the U.S. has done over the years is to say, hey, Israel, we wish you would do the right thing. We wish you would comply with U.S. policy. We wish you would comply with international law. And if you don't, there will be no consequences. And that's just not going to work. It's never going to work. And that's why I've said that I would support the Block the Bombs resolution, which is a first step toward limiting transfer of offensive weapons to Israel. And we just need to actually have a U.S. foreign policy that ends the blank check, that ends the kind of unconditional military aid to Israel, and uses the tools we have at our disposal, the economic tools and the diplomatic tools, to achieve outcomes that are consistent with our values. And unfortunately, AIPAC is very involved in this race. AIPAC's position is there can only be the only position that makes sense is unconditional military aid, a blank check of military aid to Israel, no matter what they do in Gaza, no matter what they do in the West Bank. And because I don't believe that, they're trying to destroy me. They're spending millions to attack me. They're spending millions of money laundered through this kind of slimy super PAC that's been just created specifically for this purpose to try to get their desired candidate in. But, when I think about this district, this is a very diverse district, but it's a district that is an anti-war district. It's a district that believes in peace. It's a district that believes in a nuanced position, not just a knee-jerk blank check position. And that's what Jan Schakowsky has been. She's been someone who stands up for peace and for justice. And I think that's probably why she endorsed me in this campaign, because she knows that the question of whether or not her legacy of supporting peace and justice will be continued is on the line in this primary, where you've got AIPAC versus a candidate, me, who's supported by Jan Schakowsky, and a candidate, me, who has been doing anti-war activism since before I was even interested in running for office.
Well, I've known Jan a long time, and I remember I didn't always agree with her around Israel, but I also saw her evolve and change and take a much more progressive position. I think it's good that she endorsed you. That's good for you. And let me ask you, Daniel, why you would be the best representative from the 9th Congressional District out of all other 2,000 people who are running for that position right now.
Yeah, listen, thank you for asking. This moment we talked about is a time of emergency, and I think it demands two things from a member of Congress, which, in my opinion, are both non-negotiable. Number one, someone who knows how to fight and win inside of government. And number two, someone who knows how to fight and win on the streets as an activist. So let me say what I mean. There are a lot of people with good intentions who check the right boxes on the questionnaire, who are, well-intentioned, who then go into public office and don't make much of an impact. We need to have someone who has demonstrated an ability with backbone and courage when tough interests are on the other side to push forward and get things done and make things happen that actually impact the lives of their constituents. That's what I've done as mayor of Evanston, and it's what I did as a state legislator, and it's what we need in Congress right now. But that's not enough. This moment with this authoritarian attack on our core values requires activism. You don't overturn this kind of authoritarian regime just with government officials doing the right thing. You need a movement of people rising up in the streets to demand something different and better. You need someone who understands organizing and understands the role of activism, and someone who's put their own body on the line and motivated and inspired protest movements. And I've been doing that as well. And I just think that though there are some people in this race with government experience, you can quibble about their records, but at least they've been there. There's some people in this race who've been out doing activism. There's no one else who's really been both. And we need both. And Jan Schakowsky's been both. And the moment demands both. And I think that's perhaps why Jan endorsed me. And it's why I think it's really important. There's something at stake in this race. And I'm asking for folks to support me and to be partners in governing so that we can build the society that we deserve.
You know, someone I talked to earlier wanted me to ask you the question about you had taken the job and run and were elected the mayor of Evanston and why you chose to leave that now.
I believe that my job is to do the most good that I can for the people I serve. And I love what I do as mayor. I'm honored to do it. I think we've made a ton of progress on affordable housing and climate and public safety and racial justice and more. But when I was confronted with this choice, the answer ultimately was, hey, where's the biggest emergency? Where do we most need to act? And it just seems like, given what's happening in this country right now, the emergencies in Washington, and if I can go there and make an impact, stop the madness, and be a part of building the kind of federal government that we need, I just would never pass up a chance to do that amount of good for my community.
Well, we wish you a lot of luck in this race, and we're glad that you came on the show. And I'm sure whether you're elected or not, you'll be back on the show. And we'll certainly look forward to seeing you in the neighborhoods.
I look forward to being back on the show. I look forward to seeing you in the neighborhood, and I appreciate all the great work that you do, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Everybody else.